if we could ask ourselves, how much of this week have I spent in performance mode?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
How much have I spent in performance mode, living up to expectations? And how much time have I spent just truly receiving, just receiving? And, the expectations, as I think back through this past year, leaders of all sorts all have tons of expectations. Pastors certainly have expectations, but the expectations changed during COVID. There was for most of our ministry experience, most people wanted us to be the pastoral caregiver, whether that was our gift or not. That's what they wanted us to do, to be the pastoral caregiver. So we work really hard to be a good pastoral caregiver. And when we do that well, then people are really happy and we see that we bless them. And then all of a sudden, all the things we do to give them pastoral care, we cannot do. Or we have, social distance becomes what feels like emotional distance. And it just, you can feel like a failure if you spent decades in ministry or years in ministry. You feel like you have to perform, you feel like you have to do that, you have to make everybody feel connected and valued and loved, and you don't know how to do that while you're also taking on all of these other things that you've never had to do before, and learning how to edit a worship service. And so you're not able to perform the way you think you're supposed to perform, and that your members often think you should be performing, and you're performing in ways that you weren't adequately trained to do. And so the performance is exhausting, and the lack of performance feels like a failure. And so that I just go back to, and that's one of my issues. How much have I felt that I had to perform for myself, or for others, or for God? And have I given myself a freaking break, cut myself some slack,
Yeah.
and rested?
Yeah. And just remember, you are a child of God. You are loved. You are called.
Mhm.
And it's not about the performance piece. Yeah. I really appreciate your candor there, Blossom, because no, really, because I think so many of pastors and local congregations are facing just exactly what
Mhm.
you said. And when you hear it and you say it, the 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 possibilities for trapdoors of doubt and self-doubt and
Mhm.
resentment and regret and just feeling like a failure, oh my gosh, they're surrounding us. And so your candor about that is really powerful and poignant, and I really appreciate you sharing it that way.
And one thing that's important is that for a long time we've had the attitude in the church that you go have your little gathering. We may not say that language. You go have your little class, and then when they're ready, you bring them back to the church, rather than encouraging and equipping those folks to understand that they're capable of bringing the church out to the dog park, and that it's no longer just a class, that it is a church. And as it's a church, then, and this is where we get really nervous, and I was going to say I should watch what I'm going to say, but I don't do that. So we're so used to our long cycles and methods of equipping leaders, and we think that they have to be in the pew so long, or they have to go to the seminary so long before they're equipped. That's not how the early church rolled. And of course, we know the best evangelists are those who are new Christians. And so when you go out and you discern those in your midst who are leaders in their context, they have influence in their context, goodness gracious, don't bring them back to the church as it is. Let them loose to reach more people. And it's just such a shift, but it actually develops leaders, it empowers them. And we have to wrestle with the fact that they're not ordained, they're not licensed. And we have to start thinking, what does Christian authority, what does spiritual
Mhm.
authority look like? Well, I think it looks like whatever happens when people do the work of Jesus, and have
Yeah.
more trust that we can trust the Holy Spirit working through them.
Yeah.
They are primarily called to equip, equip, equip. And that word is just constantly with me. We're here to equip people to do ministry. Yes.
Blossom just got excited, friends.